Shalom Aleichem. Hi. In this short video, I'm going to give a brief background on Rashi and Tosafot and the purpose and the goals of their commentaries, specifically on Gemara. So first, just to get the lay of the land, when we look at the page of Talmud Bavli of the Gemara, in the middle is what we have is the text of the Mishnah and the Gemara itself. On the sides, and the inside and outside borders, what's highlighted on the screen, those are the commentaries of Rashi and Tosafot. Rashi is always on the inside border, and Tosafot is always on the outside border. The reason I'm not saying right and left is because it actually flip-flops depending on what side of the spread it is. So whatever is closer to the center of the book, so if you're looking at Amud Aleph, which is on the left side of the page, Rashi's on the inside border. That's what's on the screen now. Rashi's on the right side, whereas Tosafot's on the left side. So that's just to give some lay of the land. But let's speak a little bit of background of them. So who were Rashi and Tosafot? Rashi is short for Rav Shlomo Yitzchaki, meaning his father's name was Yitzchak, and he was from Troyes, France. He was born in the year 1040 in France and died in the year 1105. Then Tosafot is actually a compilation of many French and German Talmudists. There's many of them, tens, if not more. And we have, I'm highlighting two of the many Ba'alei Tosafot, the authors of Tosafot. The word Tosafot means additions. And so the first one that I'm highlighting here is Rabbeinu Tam. That's Rabbeinu Yaakov ben Meir, born in 1100 and died in 1171. And this was Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu Yaakov was Rashi's grandson. Another one was known as the Ri, or Rabbeinu Yitzchak. He was from 1115 through 1184. I saw different numbers, but roughly around those years. And he is Rabbeinu Tam's nephew, or in other words, he is Rashi's great-grandson. So you can tell generationally, Rashi is earlier than Tosafot. It's his grandchildren and great-grandchildren are the authors of Tosafot. But again, this is these two are two of many Baalei Tosafot. But just to give you a sense of the timeline, which is going to be important to understand their roles and their functions. Okay, so what is Rashi's goals with his commentary on Gemara? So when someone is reading the Gemara, the flow is very challenging. The main points of the Gemara is stated, but the flow is left up to the reader to reconstruct. Oh, this is a question, this is the answer, this is what this means. The flow is not so smooth. That's part of what Rashi's function is. Up until Rashi, before Rashi, the commentaries, like Rabbeinu Gershom, who was Rashi's Rebbe's Rebbe, and he was one of them, but of that time, that era, the commentators were focused on paraphrasing and summarizing the sugya of the Gemara. This is what the Gemara overall is saying. This is the discussion and the two sides of it. Meaning that that's how their commentaries were paraphrasing the Gemara, or summarizing, if you will. Whereas Rashi's goal is, let's not just paraphrase, let's read it line by line. Let's get through the entire flow. Let's link how you go from A to B. What's the question? What's the answer? What did we initially think? And what did we change about our thinking to read the Gemara? Rashi's goal is to help the reader learn the daf line by line vertically. Now, in order to understand line by line, he often will have to get into the background, so he'll give some introductory context, but only that which is necessary to get through the daf. He's not going to give you the entire background. That's if it's not necessary, if those points aren't necessary. Rarely do we see Rashi giving an aside and giving commentary that isn't relevant to how to read the actual daf. So because of this, because Rashi's goal is to help you to read the flow, his commentary is extremely unique in the sense that it's useful for beginners that need help with the flow, and it's also very useful for experts because Rashi has this gifted way of writing, his style of writing in such a concise way that in his writing so concise, he's actually dealing with so many issues that someone who is very learned will appreciate and be sensitive to that. By Rashi saying this one word, he's actually solving some issue, some other problem, or he's dealing with certain questions that other commentators have. So because of Rashi's style, that he's helping beginners read, and he's also useful for experts, meaning people that are above. And this is going to be in contrast to Tosafot, and that's why I point this out now. Just one final point about this is, let's say we have all of Shas, and Rashi in one spot says one thing and elsewhere he says something else. How do we deal with these contradictions? So the truth is, since Rashi's goal is to help you to get through the page of Gemara, it's not as problematic if elsewhere he says something else, because it might be elsewhere he's just explaining how to get through that daf, and he's focused on the current sugya. And so if Rashi says one thing in one Masechah and says something else somewhere else, it's not that it's a contradiction in Rashi's opinion. It's that in the first place he's trying to explain the flow the way he believes that makes the most sense, and elsewhere he's explaining in the other way. So contradictions in Rashi aren't as problematic for that purpose, because he's very local, focused on the local. Okay, now this is in contrast with Tosafot. Tosafot's goal of the Gemara commentary is, since the Gemara is so vast and there's so much of Shas, many of the discussions are overlapping, many discussions come up in multiple places. Tosafot's goal is to systematically deal with the contradictions across different Gemaras. Whereas Rashi is focused on the local, Tosafot is focused on the entire Shas and saying, well, it says this here, but it says something else elsewhere. How do you fit those two together? It says this over here, but in two other Gemarot it implies something else. How does that all fit? Now, because of this, Tosafot are not trying to they're not seeking to replace the commentary of Rashi. Rashi is necessary to understand the daf, and they're taking it a level higher. So the commentaries of the Tosafot are coming to complement his commentary. In other words, where Rashi's goal is to explain the Gemara vertically, to help you to read the Gemara vertically, line by line. Tosafot's goal is to help the reader learn all of Shas horizontally. And because of that, it's geared more toward advanced learners. If someone is reading this page, they're not going to be bothered by the fact that, elsewhere it says something that applies else. They're not there yet. Whereas Tosafot is building on Rashi helped you learn this page, and helped you learn the next page, and helped you learn the next page. As the person's perspective gets broader, now they're going to be bothered by the questions of, well, why does it say X here, Y over there? And that's where Tosafot's commentary comes to help explain the contradictions between the cross-referencing of Shas. So in this image, it's just trying to, in one image, encapsulate the difference between Rashi and Tosafot. Rashi, his focus is more vertical, helping you get through line by line of the daf, whereas Tosafot is more horizontal, helping you to get comparisons and cross-referencing across Shas. You have one daf here says one thing, elsewhere it says something else. How do you deal with those contradictions? Now, as an aside, this isn't an absolute rule. It's a general rule, meaning Rashi will deal with contradictions across Shas. Rashi will deal with that. And Tosafot will deal with explaining the daf line by line and how do you read the line as well. Because obviously having to read is going to be an important element to be able to compare. So if Tosafot has some nuanced read, that's relevant as well. So all of that is relevant. But this is just at a broad level. And so I'll end up with, why is this important? Why is it important to understand the goals and the types of questions and challenges that Rashi is dealing with and Tosafot are dealing with? The answer is because the Gemara, especially as we get started learning it, can be very dizzying. There's a lot going on. You have the Mishnah, and you have the Gemara commenting on the Mishnah, and then you have Rashi commenting on the Gemara, and you have Tosafot that's commenting on Rashi and quoting other Gemarot, and you feel like it's all dizzy. But when you take a broad look, Rashi and Tosafot are not complicating and making things more dizzy for us. They're actually helping us. They're helping to simplify. And when you learn Rashi, you know that Rashi's helping me to get through this page for the most part. That's Rashi's goal, helping me get through the flow and read line by line. And when you see Tosafot's going to help me to understand Shas at a broader perspective, cross-referencing different sugyot and different places. So hopefully with this background, you're able to approach and tackle the commentaries of Rashi and Tosafot on your journey of learning Gemara.